All right, I just mentioned the name Julie Swetnick. You've probably heard it before. That's the Judge Kavanaugh third accuser. Now, she's talking to the press again about her recollections of Kavanaugh when under the influence of alcohol years ago. But she is backing away, I would suggest, from some of her claims. Let's bring in Michael Avenatti, her attorney. Counselor, thank you for jumping in the chair.
How are you?
It's good to have you. So let's just get right to the meat of the matter, because I know you're here to make the case and you're open to being tested, and I appreciate that because many are not. The thought is, if still true, the FBI has not reached out to her yet. Accurate?
Correct.
Okay. The argument for that among the GOP is she's incredible. Look at her background. She got jammed up in litigation regarding her employer. Yes, it went away, but it showed that she can't be trusted. Her boyfriend says she can't be trusted. That it's a credibility thing. Swetnick can't be trusted. I've said it 3 times. Are any of them impressive to you?
No, it's ludicrous. Chris, first of all, one lawsuit was filed. It was almost immediately dismissed. The claims by her ex-boyfriend, I mean, who doesn't have an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend that might say bad things about him? This case was also immediately thrown out, dismissed. There was no adjudication or determination relating to the validity of any of these claims. But let me back up, okay? Last time I checked, it's the FBI's job, it's law enforcement's job to determine whether an allegation is credible. It's not another gatekeeper's job to tell the FBI who is credible or who is telling the truth. But that's what Donald Trump and the GOP, the Republican senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee, are attempting to pull off here. They want to tell the FBI who should be believed and who should not be believed. That's not how the FBI works.
Yes, you're right in general. This is a little bit of a tricky situation because it's not a criminal investigation where they have subpoena power and all these other things where what you're saying is 100%. With these judicial nominees, they have a tailored background set of criteria that they go through. And they do take direction from the White House on this. They could still look at whatever they're allowed to. I don't know whether or not the White House has said, don't look at Swetnick, look at other people. The White House is saying they're open to anything.
But Chris, shouldn't we know that, though? I mean, shouldn't we be privy, shouldn't the American people be privy to the communications from the White House and the Senate Judiciary Committee to the FBI?
100%.
And if they have interfered in the process, that should tell us something. But we're not talking about that many people that the FBI has to go out and interview. I mean, the FBI has vast resources. You know that, and I know that.
They could interview 1,000 people, but they don't believe Swetnick.
Well, I don't know that. Who doesn't believe
not the
him?
FBI. I'm saying that the White House believes she is incredible.
Well, wait a minute. Or maybe the White House thinks she is credible. Maybe the White House and the Republicans on the Senate Judiciary Committee are really concerned about her allegations, and they don't want the truth to come out. That is equally likely. I mean, we don't know.
Except to be fair, Michael, and I would say the same thing if I could interview Ms. Swetnick, the dings on her with the litigation and with the boyfriend, those are usual impeachable constructs.
You know what? I disagree. None of that, and Chris, you know this, none of that would ever come into evidence in any trial relating to these allegations because they would be found to be irrelevant. No
Even
judge
to impeach her credibility?
Absolutely
if
not.
If she opened the door on cross-examination?
Absolutely not, because it's a mere allegation. It's not an adjudication that goes to the veracity or the truthfulness of her statements under oath. If I tried to bring any of that into evidence before a judge, the judge would say, Mr. Avenatti, approach the bench. Do you have your bar card? Because I'm going to take it from you, because it's so ludicrous, your attempt to put that into evidence. None of that would come into evidence in a million years. This is what I've been doing for 20 years.
No, listen, I'm not questioning your credentials as an attorney. I'm saying that ordinarily, if you can say, hey, you're saying now in a legal setting this happened, in a legal setting here, your employer says you weren't being truthful. In a legal setting here, your boyfriend says you're not being truthful.
No, because it was never adjudicated. No judge ever passed on the validity of these allegations. They were mere allegations. Anybody with $600 or $700 or $800 can file a lawsuit and claim any number of things. I mean, those cases were dismissed in their infancy. None of that would ever even come into to evidence. It would never be put before a jury or a fact finder, because there was no adjudication or determination as to whether it was valid or not.
All right, so that is going to be what they'll look at in terms of the background. But now present sense impression of her testimony, right? Not present sense impression the way we mean it in the law, but People just heard her on MSNBC talking about things. Now, it seemed, in terms of what she knows about Kavanaugh and what she actually saw him do, it gets a little different. Let's play what she said.
Did you see Brett Kavanaugh, spiking the punch, putting grain alcohol in the punch?
I saw him giving red Solo cups to quite a few girls during that time frame, and there was grain punch at those parties. And I would not take one of those glasses from Brett Kavanaugh, excuse me. I saw him around the punch, I won't say bowls, or the punch containers. I don't know what he did, but I saw him buy them, yes.
Now, the sworn statement, let's put up just so that we remind people, obviously you know. I became aware of efforts by Mark Judge, Brett Kavanaugh, and others to spike the punch at house parties that I attended. We'll leave it there.
Yep.
Now, I argue those are different.
Can I explain that? Yeah, can I explain that?
But I argue that they're different.
Okay.
Right,
well, what her testimony stated and the declaration, I understand you argue it's different. One of her friends informed her of what she just put in the declaration, or what was attested to in the declaration. And last night at 10:40 p.m., I had a telephone conversation with a woman who will go unnamed, who lives in Florida, who told me directly that Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh would spike the punch with grain alcohol and Quaaludes.
That she knows it because she's seen it, or she heard it?
She knows it because she saw it, and it's about the 5th conversation that I've had with her
Will
in
she
the last,
come forward
in the last 2
to
weeks.
the FBI?
100%, and this is what we
So
keep
she's
saying.
nameless for us, but she would give her name.
Yes, because she doesn't want to be outed publicly. She is prepared to speak to the FBI. And Chris, this is what I keep coming back to, okay? We're not talking about a lot of resources to interview my client, the woman in Florida, and other witnesses that I'm aware of. We've got to make sure that we get this right as a nation. There's a lot at stake here. It doesn't take a lot for the FBI to interview my client and others to get to the truth, if we're interested in a search for the truth. Now, if we're interested in some sham investigation, some farce of an investigation, just so we can whitewash it and try to tell the American people that we actually did an investigation, that's a different thing, and I think that's where we're at right now tonight.
Let's not set them up. We got to be careful here, because it's not fair to the FBI. This is a one-week investigation. That's not a real investigation.
I'm not critical of the FBI.
No, but I'm saying, like,
it
can't be satisfying to people if that's the parameter. They should talk to everybody. They should chase down every lead. That's what they would normally do in a criminal investigation. But that's not what they're doing here.
But Chris, I'm critical of the puppet masters. I'm critical of the puppet masters. And the puppet masters are Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, and the Republican leadership on the Senate Judiciary Committee. They're pulling the strings. They're telling the FBI what to do.
The Senate has a lot of sway here because technically they are in charge of this, right? This is this muddled system that we have here now because of the timing in part, where the White House is going back to the FBI to check things, but really it's the Senate Judiciary that's supposed to do the digging. If Grassley et al. Make the determination, we've looked at these. We looked at Swetnick. I don't find her credible. The former litigation, she changes her story. She never says Kavanaugh did anything to her. She says she heard him do other things on TV. She says, well, after the fact, I realized that the lines of boys, that's what it was about. She says she contacted the police, but no police report.
Well, we don't know if there's a police report yet.
They said it'll take a month to find out.
She stated in the interview that she reported it to the police around the time that it happened.
A policeman that she knew or something like that?
No. She just went down to the precinct and reported it to someone at the precinct.
How could a report like this be filed? Legitimate question. And they didn't do anything about it.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. I have the same question. But look, let me say this.
Seems unlikely. Well, and the cop is dead now that she's supposedly
I don't know.
talked to,
We're talking about a different time period, Chris. We're talking about 35 years ago. And 35 years ago, things were handled slightly differently.
No, I hear you, but the policeman she says she has the name of, he's deceased. She says she told her mom's deceased. In the court of public opinion, people will say, is it convenient that everyone she says she talked to isn't here anymore?
It's not convenient because many, many years ago, she confided in other witnesses that this had happened.
Right.
And we have these witnesses, and we're prepared to present them to the FBI so that the FBI can go out and interview these witnesses. But I want to go back to something you said, okay? Days ago, a week ago, The Republican leadership on the Senate Judiciary Committee came out immediately after these allegations surfaced and said my client was a liar. Immediately, without any investigation, without any fact determination, without hearing from my client, without asking her to testify, without any of this. How would they know, Chris? If this was about a search for the truth, they wouldn't be so quick to criticize my client and call her a liar.
It was your attachment that I think pricked their purpose a little bit, right?
But how do they,
Several of the senators and the president named you.
How do they know? I mean, when we made the allegations, guess what? I had done significant due diligence in connection with this before we made the allegations. What had they done before they called her a liar? Nothing. You know why? Because it's all about politics.
Did you know about the lawsuits?
Yes, I was aware of the lawsuits.
And
but look,
you weren't...
I'm not at all worried about it. Look, a lot of people get sued for a lot of different things. It doesn't mean, all because somebody files a lawsuit, it doesn't mean there's any credibility to it at all. Anybody can file a lawsuit. It's about the adjudication. Now, if a jury had found that she had lied, if a judge had found that she had lied, that would be a different scenario. Both of those lawsuits were dismissed.
Why is she relevant in a discussion of what Brett Kavanaugh did? He did not, from her own reckoning, touch her in any way that was wrong. She never saw him touch anyone.
No, that's wrong. That's wrong. If you look at paragraphs, I think it's 7 and 8 of the Declaration, she talks about how aggressive Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge were at numerous parties, pushing up against women, grinding against women. I believe she testified in the interview about pushing women against walls, being overly aggressive, especially under the influence of alcohol. And let me say this, Chris.
I don't give her full credit, by the way, just so you know, because of what I heard tonight on TV. It seemed to be more of a characterization of a group dynamic than really pointing the finger at Brett Kavanaugh directly, as we saw with the red Solo cup versus knowledge of spiking the punch.
So I disagree, because she has a firm recollection of specific conduct by Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge. And let me also say this. Brett Kavanaugh, in my opinion, has zero credibility. This man is an absolute liar. He's lied about big things, and he's lied about small things. If you saw that Fox News interview, if you look at the Fox News interview of a week ago, where he talks about his high school experiences, I mean, did you believe that interview? I didn't believe the interview.
Is it material? If he lied about his partying, is that material?
I think it is, because the man is supposedly under oath at points in time, testifying with his right hand raised to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Right.
Why is he lying about these things? I mean, why does it?
Because he doesn't want to be framed for conduct that he knows is untrue.
No, but
and he feels if he says, I drank a lot, people will say, well, then maybe you were drunk, and that's why you're denying this.
Chris, if you asked me, did you drink too much in high school sometimes? I'd say, yeah, you know what? I was a high school student. Did you sometimes pass out because you had too much to drink? Yes, sometimes that happened. I mean, did you do that? Did you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do it now.
Right.
But then I say to you, Michael, and that's why you don't know whether or not Ford is correct. Because you drank so much, just at parties like this,
Correct.
you passed out so often, that it can be true, Judge Kavanaugh, that Ford is right and you don't remember.
Right.
And maybe
Chris,
your friend Judge
I agree
and
with
he didn't
you.
want to give them that
Chris,
low fee.
I agree with you, but look, this guy has lied repeatedly throughout the process. Fox News, the Senate Judiciary Committee, he is not a genuine person. He is lying repeatedly about drinking too much. I mean, let me get this straight. All of these women are liars. His friends from Yale Law School, they're liars.
Well, the only
person that's telling the truth is Brett Kavanaugh.
I think the only thing we have to separate is lying about what. And I know we all say and we all teach our kids all lies are bad, but they're not all equal. And it has to be a material misrepresentation. And it's for the senators to decide. But I'll tell you what, conversations like this, access to your client and what she's going to be able to offer, very helpful to the discussion.
She has offered to take a polygraph exam. She's offered to meet with the FBI. She's offered to be cross-examined by Brett Kavanaugh's attorney, as long as he will be cross-examined by me, which never going to happen. Okay, but she's offered all these things. Women that are lying, that are making things up, they don't agree to sit down with FBI agents.
I hear you, and I am very slow to go at somebody making an accusation, but we have to test them. That's the job. She's welcome to the chair you are in whenever she wants it.
Appreciate it.